Oh hey, welcome to CWI. This week, since we're doing Mexican food, I tried to come up with a good drink of the episode to go with it, thinking something with tequila. Now rather than do your run-of-the-mill margarita or straight shots, I think this week we're going to do something called Sangrita. Not Sangria, which is a wine and fruit drink, but this is Sangrita. It has tomato base, a little bit of sweet, hot, some fruit juice. Anyway, you use it as a sipper to go along with your tequila. So anyway, grab your sombrero, get a shot glass, and let's get ready to go south of the border. Welcome to CWI. I like to mix my Sangrita up in a small pitcher, then use that to serve out of. So mixing together, start off with our soy sauce, Worcestershire, salt and pepper, lime juice, grenadine, orange juice, tomato juice, and half a teaspoon of Tabasco. Exactly. You don't want to add any more, any less. Make sure and don't add too much Tabasco. You really don't want it to be too hot. All right, give that a stir and we'll serve it up. Anyway, a little shot of Sangrita, a little shot of tequila. Now, you know, I see a lot of people use this as a slam chaser for tequila, and well, trust me, it does work really well. But if you got a decent tequila, I mean, you know, this isn't expensive, but you know, it's not totally rot gut. But anyway, I like to use it as a sipper. Oh man, that really works. The Sangrita really has kind of a mixture of flavors. You know, it's not fully tomatoey, it's kind of sweet, spicy, a little fruity, a little tomatoey, and it's a perfect suit to a tequila. And if you actually have a really nice tequila, this is the way to drink it. So savor the flavor, or what the hell. Alright, well, for our enchiladas today, I want to do a green salsa, or salsa verde if you will. It's a quick one done in the food processor, and has tomatillos, onions, cilantro, use some serrano chilies, whip it up real quick, put it in the fridge, let it chill. Good stuff. Of course, I usually prefer to use fresh tomatillos, but sometimes you just can't find them in the store, or actually they had some, they just didn't quite look up to snuff. But anyway, canned tomatoes, canned tomatillos, they'll work just fine. Make sure and drain them first though. And for batch size, I'm going to use about half of a good size onion, maybe a little more. It's all done in a food processor, so no need to cut it up finely. And about a 5 good-sized cloves of garlic here. Just going to smash these up here and take the peels off. We're going to start off with the things we need to chop up more finely. That would be our serrano chilies and our garlic. So we'll add them in first. Alright, and next let's add in about, probably about 2/3 of a bunch of the cilantro. Use mostly the ends, I'll throw in a few stems. It's all good stuff. And next we'll do the onions. We want to keep them a little more chunky, so we'll add those in and just pulse them a couple of times. Alright, that looks about right. I'll just add the rest of the ingredients. Juice of a couple of limes. And start off with a couple of teaspoons of salt. I like kosher salt. And our drained tomatillos. Oops. And we'll pulse till it's pretty fine. That should do it. Let that set for a little while. The flavors are marry, and it's a little bit hot now with the serranos, but all that lime juice and everything is going to mellow it out after it sets for a while. So, good stuff. Ah, thirsty business. Alright, let's talk enchilada sauce. The original recipe made a fairly small batch. The original recipe called for 3 tablespoons of oil and 3 tablespoons of flour. Use that to make a light roux. Then you take 2 cups of water, 6 tablespoons of chili powder, whip that together. And then to that you also add a teaspoon each of garlic powder, salt, and cumin. And then another little twist added to it. A lot of them don't add any tomato sauce, but I like a little bit. And to that rest, I would add a small can of tomato sauce. Now, I am going to actually triple that for this recipe. I want to have enough sauce to make 2 large pans of cheese enchiladas. I'm going to feed my co-workers tomorrow. And this is going to give me plenty for that. And also, like I said, I soften my tortillas with the sauce. So this way I'll have plenty of sauce for everything. Let's get started. Got a pan here over heat. Going to go ahead and add our oil. I'm using pure olive oil. I use that pretty much for everything. It's not extra virgin, it's the second pressing, so it's actually got a pretty neutral flavor. And we're going to do our equal parts, let this form for a second. And we're going to stir in our equal parts of flour. Now for those of you who saw the gumbo episode, you'll recognize making a roux. Now in this case, we're not going to take it to a dark color like we did with the gumbo. This one we're just going to make a really light roux. Essentially we're just going to cook this long enough, just barely long enough to get the floury kind of taste out of it. Alright. Well, we've got our mixture here. This is going to steam, so be careful. Alright, want to get your heat up to about high again. And we're going to take and start to simmer this down. We're going to bring it to a boil and then let it simmer for probably about half an hour. A big batch like this might take just a little bit longer. But we want it to reduce it down. We want it to start getting thick. Now, you don't want to get it too thick because, like I said, we're going to be softening our tortillas in this. But you do want to get it to where it's just starting to get thick. It'll be perfect. By the time you finish making all your enchiladas, you're going to have it simmering. It's actually going to be thick, really nice for the sauce to finish it with. We'll go ahead and add a couple cans of tomato sauce. And actually, just for something a little different, I reserved some of that tomatilla juice. I think I'm going to add a can's worth of that too. Nobody said you couldn't experiment. Time for the star ingredient of the show, cheese. I like to take cheddar cheese, Monterey Jack cheese, and blend them myself. I prefer that over the Colby Jack cheese. It seems to have a better taste and texture to me, but use your own blends however you like. About 1.5 pounds each. Well, we're getting ready to assemble here. Basically got me a little cheap plate to work with here after I've softened up the tortillas. Got some onions, cheese, and got my pan over here. And the first thing we want to do is put a little of the enchilada sauce on the bottom. Avoid sticking. Alright. We just put our tortilla into the sauce. Give it a couple seconds for it to soften. Let the excess shake off. Lather, rinse, repeat. Alright, well, out of a 30 count pack of tortillas, I got 2 pretty good sized pans. So I'm going to take and put the rest of the sauce onto them. And go ahead and be liberal with this. You want everything covered nicely. That's why I make extra. Any surface that's covered while you're baking them can dry out, and well, that's just not as good. Alright, and then we'll put a little cheese on them. I like to kind of go right down the middle. That way it's a little easier. I mean, it'll spread when you're cooking, but it's easier to kind of see when you're scooping them out where the enchiladas are. Alright, I'll repeat this for the other pan, and I've got an oven preheating on 375, and we'll pop these in till the cheese is on top. Let it go for about maybe 15-20 minutes. Oh man, a lot of work, but sure worth it. Oh, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, is it a lot of work? Yes. Is it healthy for you? Well, considering it's a bunch of cheese, we've had tequila and a lot of beer, probably not the best thing in the world for you. But sometimes you got to treat yourself, because if it's not exactly good for your body, I think it is good for the soul. So anyway, hope to see you next time on CWI, and give this a try.